Good evening. I'm meteorologist Michelle Boss, and welcome to this special edition weathercast on KREM 2 Plus, where we're going to talk about our weather impact alert and some weather issues over the next 24 to 48 hours, and taking it at a little bit of a slower pace since we're not rushing through this weathercast. So we'll kind of go over the details on why we're under a weather impact alert and what we're watching out for. So the weather impact alert is actually for a couple of different things this time around. We are looking at elevated fire danger, but also some very hot temperatures and the potential health implications of a lot of this heat, even though it is going to be relatively short-lived, at least the hottest of the temperatures. So we are looking at the elevated fire danger from tonight. So this is Wednesday night through Thursday night into early Friday morning. And the reason why we have fire weather concerns is the potential for some isolated thunderstorm activity through that period, and that's on top of the very hot and dry conditions we are already experiencing. We are under a red flag warning right now, or at least central Washington will be under a red flag warning starting at 1 o'clock on Thursday morning. So hasn't technically started yet, but there are a couple of reasons we'd be under a red flag warning. And in the past, it's generally been due to low relative humidity and widespread strong winds or higher wind gusts, but this is a little bit of a different situation. We're talking about this elevated fire danger due to the hot and dry conditions, but then the addition of isolated thunderstorms. And with that, we're concerned with dry lightning. And when we say dry lightning, that can either be lightning with no rain at all or lightning with not enough rain to be impactful, because if the lightning sparks a wildfire, a couple of drops of rain aren't really going to help out much. So that is one of our concerns. And then the other concern would be during the day, especially early afternoon through the evening, of some very hot temperatures. We've only had a couple of days where we've touched around 90 degrees. Today we did hit 92, which is the warmest we've seen all season in Spokane. But some computer models are forecasting high temperatures near 100 degrees tomorrow. I think that's going to be a little bit of a stretch, but it does look like widespread 90s to near 100-degree temperatures are likely on Thursday. As I mentioned before, sometimes we'll have these fire weather concerns when we have widespread gusty winds, but as we can see right now, current wind speeds at 9 o'clock on Wednesday, not really anything concerning. In fact, calm wind conditions across North Idaho, and in Spokane and Deer Park, winds of only 5 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour in Ritzville. A little bit breezier in Moses Lake and Omak, but we don't really have any stronger wind gusts. So wind, not a huge concern here from a broad scale. Now, if we do get any thunderstorm activity, especially when the air is very dry and if precipitation falls into it, the rain evaporates, that cools the air, and that colder air is heavier, and sometimes that colder air can rush out ahead of a thunderstorm and produce some gusty winds, and sometimes those winds can even be on the severe side. And so if you have a lightning sparked fire and then you have another thunderstorm that's producing some locally gusty winds, those strong winds can be a part of spreading some of that wildfire activity. Why are we talking about thunderstorms? We've got an upper level low pressure systems kind of far off to our west right now, and a ridge of high pressure across the north central U.S. In between that, with the circulation around the low and the circulation around that ridge, we are pulling up moisture from the desert southwest, so from the monsoon. So we're getting some of that moisture coming from the south, moving up north, and the moisture in itself wouldn't result in thunderstorm activity. We kind of need a trigger. We've got the hot temperatures, we've got the moisture, and some weak energy kind of being spiraled around this upper level low, coming into us from north central Oregon and moving northward. Just enough energy that can trigger some thunderstorm activity. We're seeing that right now. That's actually just moved north of the border. We'll zoom in on that a little bit later, but you can kind of see the origin of this moisture. Desert southwest here, and those upper level winds really carrying a lot of that moisture all the way into the Pacific Northwest and the inland Northwest. Okay, now zooming into radar a little bit more. It was relatively quiet all day today outside of the Cascades and some of that higher terrain across central Washington, but now starting to see some of this energy moving just north of the Washington-Oregon border. So Pendleton getting a lot of lightning there, and now just pushing into Washington and generally moving north and northeastward. So it's entering into some pretty dry air. So whether or not these thunderstorms, how much of that would hold together as it kind of moves off some of the higher terrain, especially around the Blues, we'll have to see how much of that makes it into far eastern Washington in North Idaho tonight. But again, we're mainly calling for isolated storms, but even one stroke of lightning with some dry vegetation is enough to spark a wildfire. And again, if we see some of those gusty winds in association with the thunderstorm activity, any of those new sparked wildfires could spread rapidly. So that is the level of concern. So we do have red flag warnings that are in effect for all of Thursday, and that really begins Wednesday night. So we're talking about after midnight tonight, early Thursday morning. This red flag warning will be in effect for much of central Washington. That's the area shaded in pink. And again, it's not for widespread strong winds, but the potential for the sparking of new wildfires with thunderstorm activity and the spreading of those wildfires with any gusty winds associated with the thunderstorms. And of course, the ambient environment is already hot and dry. This area is shaded in tan. This is a fire weather watch, kind of for the same conditions, but it looks like maybe there's a little bit less certainty that any of the thunderstorms would be pushing into that area. So fire weather watch in tan, the red flag warning in the pink area. All right, we also have to deal with the heat. I was mentioning that. So heat advisories are in effect for Thursday, but this doesn't go into effect until noon. Of course, we'll wait till things really start to heat up during the day and then see that lingering heat in the evening and overnight hours as well, as we're not only talking about high daytime temperatures, which are going to be in the lower to mid 90s, even into the low 100s, but in many spots, overnight temperatures are not cooling off very rapidly. So you're seeing overnight lows in the 70s, and for areas where people may not have air conditioning, it's really hard to cool off when the nighttime temperatures are still pretty mild. All right, severe weather outlook. Want to point this out too. The Storm Prediction Center actually has parts of eastern Washington, which does include Spokane County, and parts of North Idaho under, in this shade of green here, under a marginal risk of severe weather. And what they're mainly looking at or mainly concerned about are those gusty outflow winds from thunderstorms, which can sometimes be in excess of 50 miles per hour. And so once they hit that 57 mile per hour gust, that's considered a severe thunderstorm. So just a very small chance, marginal being kind of on the lowest tier of the severe weather threat. But that small chance with the isolated thunderstorm activity that moves through, that some of those storms could have some severe wind gusts with them. All right, going over the information for today, the numbers for today. Our high was 92 degrees at the Spokane airport with a morning low of 67. And as I mentioned, 92 is the hottest we've been all season. We hit 90 for the first time back on July 7th. That actually hit 90 degrees. And I think we had one other day at 90. That was a couple of days ago. And so I think this is our third day at or above 90. Average highs this time of year are mid 80s, average lows in the upper 50s. And really, to be even tying or breaking any records, you really have to be in the low 100s, as our hottest average high temperatures are at the end of July and early August. And likewise, some of our hottest record temperatures are in that same time period. Also want to point out that not only did we not have any rainfall today, we've had no measurable rainfall at the Spokane airport for the month of July. I believe we had a couple of events where we had a trace of rainfall that fell. Basically, that means it didn't even measure up to 1/100th of an inch. So it effectively is zero. So no rainfall for the day, no measurable rainfall for the month. And for the year, our current precipitation to date is about 6.5 inches. Average is 9.5. So we're about 3 inches below average for precipitation as a whole for this calendar year. So already we're kind of setting up with very dry conditions. June, we only had 1/4 of an inch of rain for the entire month. So that was about an inch below average just for June. So elevated fire danger because of the dryness, because of the isolated thunderstorms and associated lightning and associated gusty winds. And that will continue into Thursday night, early Friday morning. And then I think things are going to start to dry out, and any thunderstorm activity, the risk would push farther off into Montana. And then, of course, hot temperatures tomorrow. That would be Thursday, looking at highs in the 90s to the low 100s. Best chance of seeing those triple-digit temperatures would be across central Washington, places like Moses Lake, the Tri-Cities, and then down towards Lewiston. But we could see highs in the middle and upper 90s here in Spokane as well. That stretch of 90-degree heat is going to continue into the weekend and even next week. In fact, I think we have we'll look at the temperature trend in just a moment. But here's a look at one particular model's forecast highs. I say one particular model because I said some did forecast 100 for Spokane. This one's a little bit leaning towards the cooler end of highs. We'll start off very mild on Thursday morning. Some locations not getting below 70. So again, this is where that heat advisory also takes that into account. You're already starting off on a very warm note with temperatures in the 70s and then heading towards the triple digits, but we'll see lows in the middle and upper 60s here in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, so certainly a warm start to the day. And this model tops us out mid 90s, so I'd say anything between, say, 94 and 99 degrees is pretty fair game for the Spokane area for tomorrow, and that's certainly well above average and pretty oppressively hot if you're going to have to be outdoors for any reason. And the same types of temperatures are expected up north in Deer Park, into Coeur d'Alene and St. Mary's. Lewiston, again, has that better chance of being closer to 100 degrees. Forecasting this model is going for 100 in Richland and then upper 90s in Moses Lake, Ritzville, and Othello. But again, any one of those spots could easily be right near 100 degrees for tomorrow afternoon. And then not quite as mild, I guess, on Friday morning. Temperatures slipping down into the lower 60s, low to mid 60s in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, and out of the 70s and down into the 60s. So a little bit more relief from that heat on Friday, and then not quite as hot, at least for this model, as it's concerned with putting us in the upper 80s. I think we'll probably be closer to 90 on Friday as well, and then seeing low to mid 90s across central Washington. All right, here's the temperature trend I wanted to show you. So 97, that's what I'm going for the forecast high, kind of a compromise between the 100 some models are giving us and some of the models they're saying, oh no, only 94, 95. So kind of splitting the difference there. 97 tomorrow, and then temperatures kind of leveling off in the low 90s for the upcoming weekend. Still well above average, still pretty hot, still relatively dry. And then again, some computer models are bumping up our temperatures again next week into the middle and upper 90s. So kind of warmed things up there. I've got 95 next Monday and then low 90s for Tuesday and Wednesday. Again, still well above average. No records though. You didn't see a lot of triple digit heat, but still pretty toasty for most folks. All right, rain chances over the next 10 days. July is a very dry month, and so what rain we normally get usually just comes from a couple of isolated showers or thunderstorms that move over, well, for the airport, that happen to hit the airport during the month of July, and then we get our rainfall, and that's about it. So you're generally going to see some pretty low percentages. This one for Friday is really kind of taking into account the rain that we're expected to get, or that we might see Thursday night into very early Friday morning. I think Friday afternoon and then heading into the rest of the weekend will definitely start drying out. So best chances for showers, thunderstorms, and any measurable rain would be during the day on Thursday night, and then very early Friday, and then things will dry out after that. And then kind of looking ahead, the next chance of rain I saw came in on Monday night into Tuesday, and then not a whole lot of additional chances for any wet weather. And then we're kind of getting into that last week of July. So there have been many Julys in the past where we ended the month with no measurable precipitation. August as well, August also being one of the two driest months of the year here in the inland Northwest. All right, future tracker, what is it expecting for precipitation? Again, isolated thunderstorms. This is going into Thursday early morning, so just seeing a couple of these very small, localized, isolated showers and thunderstorms, generally moving from south to north across the region. And then during the day, we're going to watch out for any of these very small, isolated storms to potentially move into the Spokane and Coeur d'Alene area. Outside of this thunderstorm activity, it's going to be mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies and very hot. So any one specific spot doesn't have a very high chance of seeing any rainfall at all. But even with an isolated storm, again, just that one spark of lightning hitting any dry vegetation and could certainly spark a wildfire there. Okay, now we're into early Friday morning. This is kind of our last maybe 6 to 8 hours where we have a chance to see any thunderstorms or showers moving through. We're seeing that again moving from south to north. And then once we get into later on Friday and into Saturday, that risk for any shower activity pushes into western Montana, and then we're just going to be sunny. It's going to remain hot across the region. Here's a look at the extended forecast. So weather impact alert on Thursday for the excessive heat, middle and upper 90s, isolated thunderstorms, the elevated fire danger because of lightning, and then early Friday morning, still kind of watching out for things. But by Friday afternoon, we're looking at mostly sunny skies, highs in the lower 90s, and it looks like it's going to stay dry for the rest of the weekend with high temperatures right around 90 degrees. And then looking ahead to more hot weather for next week with the potential for maybe additional isolated storms Monday night into Tuesday.